Um, that's what we're using to hit the ball. Now, if we're doing if we're doing an examination here, look at the size of my thighs. Okay, my thighs are about 4 times larger than my arms. Okay, so we've got, I consider, in going through this process, we've got gold down here that we have not mined correctly. Okay, we've got this gold mine of muscle sitting down here that aren't being used in a more efficient way. Okay, and that's my beliefs. Okay, so when my friend talked about our power is behind us, okay, and then you turn to the ball, what it is this is now a reversal of the hitting process. So what we're doing now is, rather than me using these smaller limbs to swing forward to strike the ball, even though I'm turning into it or transferring weight, my focus is still on the hit, okay? Striking the ball, okay? Where if I keep my hand back, okay, and I rotate my hips or twist my thighs into the shot, then it's bringing my arm forward in a different way. I consider this voluntary. And what voluntary means is I'm voluntarily bringing my arm forward with the racket to make contact with the ball. Okay, that's voluntary. Involuntary is another way. And what that way is when my arm is back, now I'm assigning it a new position. I'm giving it a new job. I'm saying you're no longer going to be used as power to hit a ball, okay? You're going to be assigned a new position to stay back as a lever, okay? And what you're going to do is help me position the racket so I can rotate the racket into the ball, okay? So now this assignment is totally reverses the use of the arm. I'm no longer using this for power. I'm using it to rotate into the ball, okay? Well, what's rotating are now my larger muscles, you see? So now, independently, I'm not having to use these smaller limbs to contact a high velocity ball. And that's where my inconsistency was coming in, was the fact that mechanically I couldn't put my hand and arm in a position and racket to make more consistent contact with the ball. Now, when I rotate into the ball using these larger muscles, that's a different ball. And I'm going to tell you why. Remember when I told you that when my friend got me to hit the ball the way he said, I said that was a different ball? That is the reason why, is that we're rotating into the ball. But here's the key, is the fact that when we're hitting something independently using our limbs, I'm calling that a push, which means we are pushing. Even though you're swinging and hitting a ball, you are voluntarily swinging the racket with the focus on the arm, which is independent of the body. You're pushing a ball, okay? Even though you call it a hit, we're calling it a hit, but I'm calling that a push. Now, here's the difference. If I have my arm back and I rotate from the hips and I rotate my arm into the ball, that's a pull, okay? So that has a different influence on the ball. So now I'm going to put my magician hat on here. You know how a magician shows you a trick and then sometimes he tells you how the trick is done? Well, what this is, this is an illusion, okay? And what's happening here now is when I rotate into the ball, imagine there's a string on my racket and I have a handle on that string. And what's happening is as I rotate into the ball, it's pulling, the rotation is pulling the racket in, okay? Which is a completely different influence on the ball versus pushing a ball, okay? Hitting a ball versus rotating in, that's a different factor because now that's being influenced by my larger muscles. So I don't have to work as hard and I have fewer moving parts, okay? And I'm going to add the cherry on top later, okay? But right now, this is what I want you to focus on, because this is what will be the easiest thing to start off on, especially in tennis. I figured out something else in golf, which is stationary, but I'm going to tell you that later when I'm when I'm showing you a forehand and a backhand against the wall, a volley, an overhead, a serve. I'll show you those. But anyway, but you can see here now the rotation is pulling the racket in. I'm not pulling though. I'm not pulling the racket, okay? Because now that's independent of my hips. I want my hips to do everything. So my arm cannot come forward voluntarily. It has to come through involuntarily, which is another way. Some other function has to bring my arm forward, because right now it's just neutral, and all it is acting as a lever, okay? And that lever is to hold the racket in place so I can rotate the racket forward to make contact with the ball, okay? But invisibly, as the magician, this is what's happening that you can't see, okay? You can't see this on the court, all right? And the fact is that when I'm turning, it's pulling the racket, okay? So it's an illusion, okay? You can't see it, but as you rotate like this, it's pulling the racket forward into the ball, okay? So that's what I felt different. That's what I liked. I like that flight of ball. I like that feel at impact. I like those results much better, okay? But that's me. It's not you. I have no idea what you're looking for in your game. That's what helped my game, both in tennis and golf, okay? So that's the big difference there. And the key is when I hit some shots for you, what I want you to look at is when I take my racket back, I turn it back. Okay, I have a relationship. I just don't go, you know how they say, take your racket back? Well, with me, I'm going to show you this relationship on how to keep it. Okay, this is critical, all right? But what it is, you can see is my relationship is when I'm taking that racket back, I'm turning it back, because now I have a relationship, you know, with the head of the racket as I'm turning my hips. And when you turn, okay, if I'm just turning, as fast as you turn that racket, because it's linked to your upper body, it's just going to come forward as fast as you turn, okay? So you don't have to worry about it getting there, because as soon as you make a quick turn like that, all right, it's there in a second, all right, because it's linked, okay? So it's linked together. And here's my power behind me, and then I'm going to rotate into the ball. All right? So if I'm on a backhand, you can see. And what I call this, when I put my hand back and in this leverage position, I call it my position of power. You know, when you're hitting balls for 40 years against a wall, you kind of have a little time to think. And I call this my pop position of power, which is just behind us. Okay, so this is my leverage position here. So all I'm doing is I'm finding the ball back here, which is easy. It's just like you taking the racket back, not a big deal. And then here's my position, and then you can see I'm rotating into the ball, which is a natural pull. Okay, I'm not putting any influence of, as far as pulling the racket. It's just as I rotate, okay, that ball goes right into it. And when you watch me hit, I want you to watch how deep my hand stays, because I'm just finding the ball back here. You see, I'm not coming up to hit the ball. I just let the ball come to me, and then I rotate into it. Okay, so I'm allowing that ball to come deeper into my stroke. Okay, but anyway, what I want to do now is I'm just going to show you a forehand, show you a backhand, I'll show you some volleys, and then I'll show you the overhead and the serve, like I said before, okay? Just so you can get an idea of how things are working, okay? I'm really showing you, how these things work. I don't know if it's considered a, physical tennis lesson, but I'm really just showing you new mechanics, okay? So anyway, so you get an idea, and I'm trying to paint a picture on something that's been very complicated to figure out. So, it's taken me 4 decades. Hey, I wish I could have done it in 2 decades, but 2 decades ago, I wouldn't have this information that I have today. It would have been, 20 years of information that were left out that I think it's critical today. So anyway, let me get this set up, and then we will hit some balls. Thanks.